God is not what you look at, but what you look from. Meister Eckhart is often presented as a Christian mystic speaking in paradox and poetry, but beneath his sermons lies something far more unsettling and modern, a radical philosophy of consciousness. Eckhart does not describe God as an object we perceive, imagine, or think about. Instead, he makes a claim that overturns the entire structure of religious thinking. God is the ground of awareness itself. God is not what consciousness knows. God is what consciousness is before it knows anything at all. When Eckhart speaks of God beyond God, he is pointing to a level deeper than belief, images, or concepts, a pure ground where awareness has not yet split into subject and object. In this video, we explore Eckhart not as a medieval mystic lost in symbolism, but as one of history's most daring thinkers of consciousness, anticipating non-dual philosophy, phenomenology, and modern inquiries into the nature of awareness. Why God cannot be an object of awareness. Eckhart begins with a simple but devastating observation. Anything you can think about, imagine, or point to is not God. If God were an object of awareness, God would be limited, defined, and contained within consciousness, and that, Eckhart insists, is impossible. Objects appear within awareness, but God is not inside awareness as one thing among others. Instead, God is the ground that allows awareness to appear at all. This is why Eckhart repeatedly warns against clinging to images of God, even sacred ones. Every image turns God into something finite. True knowing begins when the mind releases its grip on objects and rests in what Eckhart calls the desert, or the ground, a silent clarity prior to thought. Here, awareness does not perceive God. Awareness rests as God, because the deepest level of consciousness and the divine ground are not two separate realities. The ground of the soul and the birth of awareness. One of Eckhart's most revolutionary ideas is the ground of the soul. He teaches that beneath personality, memory, emotion, and identity, there is a depth in the soul that is untouched by time or change. This ground is not created, not personal, and not individual. And here is the shock. It is the same ground as God's own being. Eckhart describes this as a birth that happens eternally. God gives birth to the soul in this ground, and the soul gives birth to God by becoming aware of it. This is not metaphorical poetry. It is a precise description of consciousness realizing its own source. When awareness turns inward, beyond thoughts and self-images, it encounters a stillness that is not empty, but luminous. In that stillness, Eckhart says, there is no distinction between knower and known. Awareness does not experience God. It awakens to the fact that its deepest nature has always been divine. Letting go of God to find God. Perhaps Eckhart's most controversial statement is this: I pray God to rid me of God. At first glance, this sounds heretical, but Eckhart is not rejecting the divine. He is rejecting false ideas of God. The God we must let go of is the God we imagine, conceptualize, and grasp. Only when that God dies does the true God appear, not as an object, but as the ground of awareness itself. This is why Eckhart insists that true liberation comes through detachment, not moral effort or belief accumulation. Detachment means releasing every identity, every image, even the image of oneself as a seeker. When nothing is held onto, awareness stands naked in its own source. And in that nakedness, Eckhart says, the soul discovers that it has never been separate from God. The seeker and the sought dissolve into one simple presence. If you enjoyed the information, remember to leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments below. We would love to read what you think. Now, a closing reflection. Meister Eckhart offers one of the most radical insights in the history of spiritual thought. God is not something consciousness reaches, God is what consciousness already is, before it reaches for anything. This is not belief, theology, or mysticism in the usual sense. It is a direct investigation into awareness itself. Eckhart invites us to stop searching outward, stop grasping inward, and rest in the ground where knowing begins. In that ground, there is no observer and no observed, only the silent clarity in which all things appear. And that, Eckhart says, is God.